So I love leaving things to the last minute. I love cram revision. I was not as steady as we go. I would be like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And a good bit of pressure helps me out. And I remember I was on holiday in America and my uncle went to collect my results and I think I'd got like C's. And I was like, I am going to university doing law and I need 3 A's. So I ended up, it was the kick I needed. It was probably the best thing that could have happened.
From Ministry of Work, welcome to Greater Manchester's Greatest Minds, a show about Greater Manchester's pioneers, entrepreneurs and visionaries, and the stories that brought their ideas to life. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and on today's show, we speak to Laura Pomfret, who swapped her lifelong ambition of being a high-flying city lawyer for the startup world, with the aim of helping women take back control of their finances and, amongst other goals, making some of the big buy now, pay later giants a thing of the past. Over 50% of adults use some sort of consumer credit, whether it be credit cards, store cards, buy now, pay later, or whatever it might be. It's just an everyday part of life that many of us live with, but a lot of us also struggle with. And there's quite clearly a gap in education between what we learn at school about budgeting and investing, which is often very little, through to becoming an adult. For Laura, what started out as an Instagram page to try and address that gap, a page which she daren't initially even put her face to, soon turned into a growing community of women who are all struggling to regain control of their personal finances. And that's where her journey as an entrepreneur began. But it was a far cry from what Laura had always dreamt of.
My big dream growing up was to be a lawyer. I was of the Legally Blonde era, but that was not why I wanted to be a lawyer. But my mum, such an amazing worker, and she was a project manager for a really big company. And she used to work from home when that wasn't a thing because there's lots of international conference calls. And we're talking like the early 2000s. And so to have, conference phones and headsets was just not a thing, especially. And she had this really cool office built in at home because she worked from home. And we were out for tea with her and one of her friends. And I said, I want to do what you do growing up, because I just heard these calls about business and negotiations and contracts. And she said, you want to do what she does. And she was like, she's the lawyer. And so they became really good friends, still friends to this day. But she was the lawyer on the deal. Yeah. And my mum was the client. And since then, I've just had this great clarity where I went, yeah, okay. So there's been no, what should I do? Where should I go? I just was like, no, I'm just doing that. So every single GCSE decision, A-level decision, degree decision.
So from really young, this?
13, which blows my mind because my daughter's 13 now. And I can't believe that at 13, I just was like, yes, that's what I'll do. So it just removed a whole lot of overwhelm from what should I study and what should I be. And again, it was not like I was like, I'm going to be a rocket scientist I don't know a thing about science. It leaned into my creativity, my writing skills, my negotiation, my interest in business from an early age. So it made sense. It's a good job it did, because imagine if I'd just picked like a marine biologist is what people pick.
Got when no chance of getting into it or whatever.
Like, oh, I'm going to be a singer. It's like, you definitely are not. Like, my hope for my family would have been honest there. So yeah, I picked that and it worked out.
Amazing. So growing up, you've got a very fixed direction. Do you then become a lawyer? How do you get there?
I do, and not without little bumps along the way. So I was always quite a natural learner, but had to work hard to be in the top set. So felt like I'd done well there, was really well supported at home to be able to do a lot of sport as well as education, which I found was really, really important, because I felt like I got that release from books. Yeah. And then I did athletics and I did rugby. So you're like training. And then really good night's sleep because you just knackered yourself out, and then back to it the next day. So I loved doing well at school. I was in a group that did well. I think the sporty group tend to also be good at the studies and stuff. So I did that. I went to college over in Winstanley, because I went to school in Bolton, college over in Winstanley in Wigan, and absolutely flopped my AS levels.
Did you?
I really wasn't that happy at college. I had a good little group of friends, but our friendship groups had split up a bit. I was traveling a long way, and I think I'd been used to coasting and kind of I'm definitely neurodiverse on some levels. So I love leaving things to the last minute. I love cram revision. I was not as steady as we go. I would be like, it's fine. And a good bit of pressure helps me out. And I remember I was on holiday in America and my uncle went to collect my results and I think I got like C's. And I was like, I am going to university doing law and I need 3 A's.
Oh, shit.
So I ended up, it was the kick I needed. It was probably the best thing that could have happened. And I resat everything my A levels. Yeah, because I was just like, I'm not happy with them.
You've got to do it again.
I just couldn't have, I would have had to have, I don't think I could have done it. I think I had to reset everything.
Well, and also that's been your goal, right, since you were 13?
100%. No, that's what I'm doing.
That's your identity at that point, probably?
That's so true. And I would have let myself down and everyone that I'd told. It was that accountability. But I definitely didn't think, I can't do that now. I'm going to have to pick something else. I was like, okay, how do we make it work? And so I reset everything. So for my A-levels, I did ASs and A-levels during that year. And didn't quite get straight A's, got 2 A's and a B. And it got me into Leeds to do law. And again, that mentality of when you're a lawyer, you can actually study something else first. You don't have to do law. I was like, no. Quickest way. Why would I study something else and then do an extra year, 2 extra years study? I will do law degree and then I'll go to law school and I will just follow this path.
That year at college must have been super intense.
Yeah, it definitely was. But I think it was just a non-negotiable.
Well, you had to, didn't you?
I had to. And I'd picked things I liked. So, I think I was history and English language and Spanish, which I actually enrolled myself into Instituto Cervantes, which is on Deansgate, and was like, if I think back, I was like because it was a young birthday, I'm in July. I was 17 enrolling in conversational Spanish lessons in Manchester where I would drive myself and I just don't even do that now. Like, I just don't know that girl definitely was just like, okay, this is what we do. I feel like sport had helped me a lot with that though, because I was not a gifted athlete. I was the workhorse.
Yeah.
So I'd be shoved in the 1500 and the 3000 because no one wanted to do them.
Because it's grueling, right?
Grueling. And I had a great sprint finish, which usually meant I'd not worked hard enough throughout the race, but it's the same kind of thing. I'll probably leave things a little bit, but with a bit of pressure and again, a bit of a plan and work backwards from a goal. On reflection, I just don't know if I do that now, but everything possible to get those results.
Well, and that work ethic, which we'll probably come to in a little bit, stands you in good stead for what you're doing now, right?
Yes.
And I think it's so underrated, work ethic. You don't have to be the most naturally talented at anything, but the work rate can make up for it, can't it?
It can, and my husband works in performance sport, and he's in recruitment for Liverpool on the weekends. He's done it for years, and it's fascinating when you hear about sport and the number of children, because it's children at first and then they develop into teens and stuff, that don't make it because of their mental side. You can't teach that. You can help hone it and you can point them in the right direction, but you can have these absolute athletes. And I think I saw a stat because we met Trent Alexander-Arnold's mum. She's amazing, Diane, and she was talking about he is now the only person from, I think, the under 18 England's team that did really well. That's still playing,
which is mad.
In the Premier League, and then never mind in England. That's mad. They all had the talent, but it's just this mental side to everything we do is something that I just completely underestimated. Yep. And I think you are gifted with it, but I think you can absolutely optimize it.
Interesting. Do you think you've learned some of that behaviour though from your mum? Because even just when you spoke about your mum earlier, your eyes lit up.
100%. Yeah,
she's clearly an inspiration, right?
Yeah, and that's your nature and nurture. Because even though it's in your genes, it's watching her. And she she left school at 16, with working class family from Wigan. Needed money straight away to help the family because my nana had 4 children and she was on her own. And she worked her way up from being a 16-year-old at Salford Bleach Works in Wigan to really, really senior director in the NHS, actually. She now works with my dad. They've got a small business that they control their own hours and they travel from time to time. But when the work needs doing, they lean into it. And I think children are watching 100%, all the time, aren't 100%. They?
Yeah, that's that. I think, like I say, it's a bit of nature, bit of nurture.
Yeah.
So you've then qualified. Well, you studied. I know that was probably
a bit, hopefully.
A bit of a challenge. But then you qualify, or you get a job first off as a trainee solicitor, right, in Manchester?
Yeah.
So tell me about that journey.
That's so interesting, like where it's so competitive.
Yeah.
You need to get a training contract in law, because if you don't, you have to self-fund. Well, there's a couple of things. One, you want a training contract, which is like a graduate job.
Yep.
But also you don't want to have to pay for law school, because you've already been going through, and the university fees nowadays versus when I went is just extortionate. And so you can get your what's called your LPC, your legal practice course, paid for. And you're also part of this like safe cocoon of a firm that will look after you, that will help develop you. And so getting that training contract and meeting this intake of people that we all went to law school together, and then you start together and you've got a 2-year journey, was massive. And I was absolutely dazzled by the city lights and the shiny windows and the big office and the big reception. It was just like the stationery cupboard. It was just everything I could have dreamt for. It was pre-Suits, but it's just like Suits.
Yeah. Very interesting. So my background was in the police, public sector for quite a long time. And then I went in, and I was dazzled is a great description. It was the sort of the big glass office. And yeah, when I first got there, it definitely felt different to what I'd been used to.
Like a movie.
Yeah.
Like it is in the movies, but also like, I don't know, you talked about you're from Scunthorpe and I'm from Wigan. People like us didn't get jobs like that.
Yeah.
Even parents and or friends or family friends may have had good typical jobs, teacher, even the doctors of the world are going to a little surgery around the corner. They're not going to the city, like Canary Wharf seems a million miles away. I remember one of the things I loved about the job I had was the firm had a London and a Leeds office and Manchester office. And they were very clever because they used to bill out the Manchester trainees on the London fee to the clients. But I didn't care, because I got to work on the best deals, the big deals happening in the city, the big court cases. Getting a train to London was much better than it is now. It was like you
could actually get there.
The Wi-Fi was better then, and that was 13 years ago. But that was just literally big city moment. I imagine if someone like moves to New York from the country and the States, it's the same feeling. If you go, wow, am I really here? And people back home wouldn't believe this. Do you know what I mean? Like, Dorothy's not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah. So you clearly enjoyed it.
Loved it.
But you weren't there very long.
No.
So why? What happened there to make you actually, this is great, but I want to sidestep or move on?
There's probably 2 points. One is I think I realised I didn't want to be a partner.
Okay.
Which is really interesting, because that was like,
yeah,
even as a trainee, and I want to be the best I can be. So that's the path. And I was really frustrated, ironically, that like even salary was capped at what's called PQE, which is how qualified you are. So I was very motivated financially. I wanted to be able to, especially once I'd had my daughter, I was like, I need to make money. I've got to look after us. And I was like, oh, but I could, like, your PQE just goes up every year that you're there, and that's where your salary really is linked to. I mean, obviously there's a band.
And it's not, but it's not a necessarily true way of doing it, because it's not linked to value that you bring in, is it?
It's not linked to value, and it can kind of stifle you, and it can also, for some people, is why they would move law firms. And people made some really bad decisions, I think, moving to law firms that paid more, but that just didn't provide the value that firm did, and the well-being side of it. And so, but it can stifle people and make you look elsewhere. So that's what I did know. I speak to Mark, who was my old boss, and he always says, you'd have been a great partner. And I think at the time I had to really work to be the intellectual lawyer, really work at that. But he felt I was very commercial, very personable, very empathetic. And he always says I would have been a good one. So I've got in my back pocket if I fancy knocking on the door. But so that was one side of it, Eddie. Then the other side was I loved working with clients. I loved learning about their businesses. And then I felt like you'd help them, and then you'd plan the party, and then they'd go and have the party.
Yeah.
Like
you were missing that
business
final
side.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because I'd not been exposed to business through family, but I'd always been interested in business. I'd always been interested in, I don't think I'd ever thought I'd want to run my own business, but I thought I want to be on an exec team. I want to be on that board of directors. I want to grow a business. And I was so fascinated by that by chance, a friend that I'd met when I had my little girl, her husband's family business were recruiting for their first lawyer.
Okay.
And so I knew them. I knew the family a little bit, not properly, but I knew it was a growing business. And just that chance to be the sole counsel, 1 year's qualified,
Well, yeah, that's an insane opportunity, right?
It
Because that's
really
unusual,
is.
isn't it?
It is, yeah. Usually, I just didn't fancy joining like a co-op bank or a Barclays. No offense to them, but you're one of like 1,000 lawyers.
Yeah.
It's like working in a firm.
Yeah.
I liked the idea that I could be quite senior quite quickly, but I was also a bit scared because you're suddenly on your own, even if you've got access to advisors. And so I made the leap, not really knowing that business would go on to do 2 MBOs, and I would lead on them. We would do like huge litigations, huge projects. And I'd be, I was, after the first MBO, I was made company secretary. So I was in the boardroom, and the stuff that I was able to learn.
Yeah, then that's the stuff, if you get exposed to that, it's a different league, isn't it?
And it's the stuff that, even though I'd worked in a corporate law firm, I don't think I was exposed to the business side. And I actually think it's a great thing that these secondments and stuff, or at least exposure to the senior leadership team of clients, is such a big win. Like, I think you should have to go and shadow and go into those board meetings and feel what your client's feeling. Because if you just understand that it's not just the isolated legal problem or legal project, it's something much bigger. So that's why I made the leap at 1 year, because I thought, I don't want to be the partner, and I probably don't want to be a really senior lawyer managing a team of 50. No,
that's interesting. I think if you take away that sort of top line ambition of, if you know you don't want to be a partner,
what you do?
It's kind of over then, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, I think it is, especially when you're quite ambitious and it's not just a salary or it's not just a job. Going like, I need goals and put things to hit, and so when you've kind of not got that, you go, ooh, need to find another one. And so the travel council's opportunity, when I moved to work for them, they were a growing travel tech business, and there was an opportunity for me to try and be on that board and join that board and hit that
amazing
goal.
Opportunity, especially like 1 year qualified. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What was the reception like from like friends and family? Because I can imagine your mum was like, you literally just qualified, what are you doing? Or not?
No, they've always just trusted my instinct. And actually, I did an interview with the firm that I was at, and they asked that question about when you then left law to start a business, like what was the reaction of family? And it was like, there just wasn't even one. It was like, okay, I think if you build up a reputation for making the right decisions, sometimes on impulse, like
or rash.
I kind of always land on my feet. They've just trusted that process, that you're always leaving for something better. You're not throwing something away.
And probably trusting that, whatever you do, you're going to do it well.
And you'll figure it out. And I guess I was lucky that I think, and we'll probably come on to this separately, but because I was financially stable, like I have my money shit together, and this is why I've got the business I've got now. The worry of a family where you throw away a career that's like stable is financial stability. What are you going to do? How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to get a job that pays that much money again? You're throwing out such an opportunity. But I think when someone sees that you look like you seem to be well financially,
there's less of a concern. Plus, you've always had that benefit of, say, for example, travel counsellors, it doesn't work out. There's a nice safety cushion behind if you need it, isn't there?
There is. And I feel like, if you are good at your job, you're employable. And I think you do have to have a glass half full attitude to that sometimes we think there's not going to be another opportunity. There's, I'll never get a job as good as this one. I had a friend at the law firm that left for a particular reason, and she went back and she's now a partner. As long as you and it's a good tip for everyone, that don't burn bridges, keep really good relationships, follow the end of your nose a little bit though, and just see where you
you've got and back yourself a little bit, because it's easy to be content and comfortable and not dare to dream a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's worse when you get older, when you have kids, when you have houses and mortgages and stuff. We daydream a little less, I think, over the age of 30.
Yeah.
And over the age of 40, even less.
Yeah.
We don't have time, or we just,
tired.
The art of the downside's so much higher that you just, we probably don't daydream enough.
So you're at Travel Counsellor though, and you'd had your first child.
Yes, yeah.
And you've done amazingly well there. You've gone up quite quickly in terms of progression. Yeah. Obviously, being first in at a growing business is a great way to do that. You then make the potentially very brave decision to set up your own business. So how did that come about? What was the thought process there?
Oh my God, I think I was the only person in the pandemic in travel to not be made redundant, but to hand my notice in, which, the CEO at the time was so supportive. He really, really was. but also made me work my notice period.
Yeah,
It was like, you're not going anywhere for a little while. But they'd been really supportive in recognising that I had done all I could do there in the role I was in.
Yeah.
And I was getting more comfortable with the fact that I probably wanted to move away from law because I didn't want to go and be a general counsel of a big business. It was the same thing. The general counsel to me is like a partner.
Yeah.
So I just didn't want to run a big team of lawyers. I liked the business. I sat in an area of the business, which was the financial, the FD and the financial controller, the financial planner. I wish I'd have asked them loads more questions. Now I run my own business, but I was exposed to some really interesting like projects and business stuff, like growth stuff. And I just felt that I needed to do something. I either needed to move or I needed to change roles. What was really hard there was there wasn't an obvious role. I feel like I would have been great at operations, but there was an existing operations director who was in situ, and there was no opportunity to move into that space. Yep. I moved into that space a little bit, but I was definitely not given the freedom to be able to grow there. So that was, and then there was another opportunity so I had my second baby actually a few years in, about 5 years in. And when I was hiring for my maternity placement, and they were really supportive of this, I was like, I don't think I want to come back as the job. So I think when we're looking for a replacement now,
we need to have a long-term view
we need to let's look for someone that could be a fit for longer. So it's really weird. Like I'm like heavily pregnant, 7 months pregnant, doing the second MBO and trying to find someone that could then keep my job, which is really weird. But I came back and I moved for a year and a half up until the point I left. I moved into digital product.
Oh,
so there was this concept of obviously Amazon's product teams and for an archaic travel tech business. And it was innovative at a point, but then it had built all its own software. It had done build and not buy. Yep. It was not nimble. It was a big monolith of tech and it couldn't move fast. And it also hadn't really operated from a customer focus point. It was it was like our ideas and stuff. And so I worked with a couple of really fascinating people that taught me about jobs to be done and how to really get understood of what your customer needs and testing and trying things. So I had like this year's apprenticeship of digital product. But at the same time, I'd on mat leave started Financielle as an Instagram page. Never meant to be a fucking business. It was literally should have just stayed as fun. But I had gone on a money journey since my time of having my first child of, oh my God, I've got like consumer debt. I've got cars on finance. I've got, I think a sofa on finance. I've got a phone. I've not really got many savings. I save to go on holiday. I don't save to just have money there. And other than being privileged to have family that if I needed to move in with them, they would help me out. I was not financially well. And so I'd gone on a journey to, Martin Lewis is great, but he's absolutely overwhelming. If you go to his website and think, where do I start?
No, it's impossible.
Great if you want to know the latest ISA deals, and there's a trust thing there, like you trust what that site says, but doesn't give you a step-by-step plan or structure. So I went on this journey, which was to nail one thing at a time about finance. And once I'd nailed that thing, nailed the next thing. So I was doing well financially, not wealthy, but just in control.
Yep.
And I was just bored on mat leave because I'd let me think about it. I was literally about to close an MBO, had the baby, someone else's project now, and the baby doesn't do anything early on.
Yeah, no, true. That first bit is actually secretly quite boring, isn't it?
It's really boring. And I had all this mental capacity because I'd just been doing this big corporate deal and then nothing. And so that's why I set up the Instagram page. And actually, if you scroll down on the Financielle Instagram page to the very bottom, the first one's a quote saying something like, "Today, baby girl, we're going to change the world." And it was something that I was thinking about with my little girl, which was we could help people. And it's just a content fun thing. But we got great responses from it because it was just talking straightly about money, not messing around, maybe being the big sister a little bit, being like, you're the problem as well. We can all do better. Not like, it wasn't describing what an ISA is. It wasn't that side. It was the personal side of personal finance. And so in the background, I'd always, when I went back to work, worked with this really cool product guy, and he was like, Financialle's great. Like, this should be a platform. And I was like, it could be a platform. I said, because at the time, I'd built this playbook that was like a course, and then there was that I used to give away for free, but people don't do it if you give it away for free. And then a spreadsheet which tracked it. And I was like, this could be a platform. This is just an iframe in front of a spreadsheet. Like, it could be. And I think the seed was sown there that, like, in my spare time, not for any decent revenue, it washed its face in terms of like initial outlay for, well, I sold a couple of handbags actually. I sold a Chanel handbag and a Celine handbag, and that was my startup.
Oh, to fund it. Brilliant.
To fund it, yeah. And it was, again, I still had a job, but I was on a good salary. I had a great life, and I worked for.
Well, that's what I mean. That's a big risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
To do that, to pursue a startup, even at the point of like having a good salary, you've still got to then risk that huge salary.
You have
to start.
But I think I did. That's really important though, because I did it on the side because I got a joy from it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a conflict, but it was a conflict of time eventually.
Yeah.
But too many women typically would start a side hustle or a business and lowball what they want to do with it, whether it's because people will think they can't do it or because they're not exposed to that level. You know, if I was leaving a job to build a business, it was a big business.
Yeah.
Because I was
you
part
are
of a
doing
big
it.
business.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing it properly. What I mean by properly is I didn't do it to swap a salary out. I had a good salary and I liked my job and I liked the company and I was learning this new area, this like digital product. So it was to go and do something that, firstly, there was a proof of concept out there. So we tested it. Secondly, people paid for it. Then the qualitative feedback was great. And then the quantitative was hard to get because it was all on spreadsheets. But
Sure.
I knew that we were increasing the net worth of women. So I had all these proof points that really, when I've come into the startup world now, people would do it without all those and still go, I'll raise $1 million and just have it in a hoodie and based on an idea. So I, in the end, thought that I had enough proof points and I had a personal proof point that I knew the system worked and that we could help people financially, that it could be huge, that there's this mass market, especially the mass affluent, as you would call it, but the mass market does not know what to do with money. Financial advisors don't want to know unless you're of a certain wealth level or income level. So there's a gap where these people do want to learn.
There's a huge gap, isn't there?
Huge gap.
Because there's nothing at school and then adulthood where you just sent out.
There's a 39 million financial advice gap in the UK alone of people that don't know the basics and kind of aren't in the right market for a financial advisor. So I left, but I also convinced my sister to leave her job as well to do it.
Whoa.
Because I wasn't salesy. I say that it would never be, I was a lawyer, so it'd never been part of my training or experience, although I do like people and I believe in something, I think I can sell it. But my sister had worked at Manchester United in the partnerships team, and then I'd poached her to join travel counsellors because they didn't have a partnerships team, and she set it up and helped her, bring quite a lot to the bottom line quite quickly. And she'd come to the end of her time there, like she needed something new. She'd done there, I think maybe 4 years there.
Yeah.
But it was funny because she actually left before me. And I was like, imagine if I don't leave now.
Yeah, exactly. Goodbye.
I've decided to stay.
Yeah.
So that was why we took the leap. It was the proof point that there's something here. We're helping people. This is during COVID, post-COVID, the right time to just take this opportunity and run with it.
But it's interesting that you were like, not almost forced to start it, but you'd started something for fun and it had grown kind of organically, really. And then all of a sudden you're like, shit, this is an opportunity now to do something proper with it.
I think there's two types of business owners. There's, and we can change between them too, but there's people that just want to find a problem and they find. And then, because they're born to be a business owner. And I also think a lot of second time founders, and you you have a view on that, but do that because they've kind of got a bit of a playbook, and then there's others that just there's a problem that whacks them in the face, and I'm like, is no one else going to fucking sort this? Like, all these banks do not help people. I am being targeted left, right, and centre by budgeting apps to take out loans. Like, who is actually trying to help? And it was just so annoying, and it was like that. Fine, we'll do it.
And is that why it was deliberately to help females in their finances, or was that a proactive choice, or did that just happen naturally?
That was data driven. So so it started off as a personal anonymous Instagram page. Oh my God. Like I remember now, that account had a year without my face on it.
Did it?
I was so worried that I'm so not worried now, but at the time, look, I was quite outspoken about debt, about spending more than you earn, about the stuff we could control. And I just knew loads of people in my life struggled with money, spent a load of money on shit they didn't need. And I was just really worried what people would think. Money is very personal. Would people think I'm trying to say I'm this like multimillionaire, which I wasn't. It was very much around the financial well-being. What does this, 30-year-old or 25-year-old or whatever know about money? Who are they? Da, da, da. So I had all these like thoughts that was making me keep it quite private. But I think that there was just this, in the end, it was like, no, there's something here and we need to start helping people. And, but it was very feminine. So it wasn't picking up on female issues. It was only then when you really lean into, when you're starting your business and you're trying to do a bit of a SWOT analysis and you're trying to look at the market and you go, oh my God, banks were built by men for men. Women couldn't take out a mortgage in their own name until the early 80s. Like they couldn't take out a business loan. Like, I think that was 70s, but then business loan 80s. They couldn't get a credit card. Like, there was loads of stuff that in our like parents' lifetime.
Yeah.
And then we learned loads about the pension gap, which no one really talks about, but because of the pay gap and because of the caring roles that women tend to take in the part-time, or they tend to earn less, and so they'll be like, I'll go part-time and I'll do the kids drop off and you work hard. If you're in a typical, heterosexual relationship, suddenly we've found out now that like by the time a woman retires, she typically has 69 grand in a pension and a man has a 205.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
It's bonkers, isn't it?
But like even the men in our lives go,
what?
How? And I think, so we just spotted this area that women tend to control the budgets in the household. Even if it's not got all the money, they control where we're buying our food shop from, where we're going on holiday, where we're getting the clothes from, who needs a gift, does the mother-in-law need a Christmas present? Like we tend to see, generalizing, but those patterns. And then women having less money. So then when, your Instagram feed versus mine, I'm trying to be sold like lashes and outfits, and you're probably fitness, investing, health. Like we saw that. And so when we realized our demographic was 90% women and we kept seeing these social problems, we were like, let's lean into women. Yeah. Let's do it in an inclusive way. Let's bring partners on the journey. Let's be female focused, not exclusive. And 10% of our users are men, and they're amazing. And they're not better than the women, but they're geeks with it. They love, like we run a budget like a P&L. That's how and no one else does that. And so when you see your profit, which is your excess on your budget, you want to beat it with your actual, and the men want to beat themselves. Like they're so competitive and quite inspirational. But I feel like we're doing such a great job in bringing them into the financial conversation. The chat we have in the community, for example, on app is very female focused. And a guy typically, if they want to ask a question, would be like, or if they want to comment on it, they'll be like, I just wanted to give my view. I hope that's okay. No mansplaining, no, stereotypical negativity.
Caveat.
Yeah, just very. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope that man's going to his sister or his partner or his mum and being empathetic now. Or if they've got daughters, they're going to be like, oh, fucking hell, screwed from the beginning. I can have an influence. Yeah. And that's more important to me than having like a female club that no one's allowed in.
Yeah, no, I think that's like, I'm the dad to two daughters now.
Oh, so it's like, yeah,
exactly. Yeah. No, but that's, front and center. I've got to do my best for them, haven't I?
So are you no boys?
No.
So typically the gender pay gap starts at 5. Girls get less pocket money than boys. Absolutely. I don't know if it's Starling, I think, did a bank report on that, which I have girls and a boy, so I can't comprehend that would happen. But apparently it does.
Wow. That's quite frightening, isn't it? So, I mean, when did you start the business?
So registered on Companies House in November 2020 when I handed my notice in.
Yeah.
Left in about the April, and really it was an Instagram page before then. It made a little bit of money selling like some playbooks and stuff, but we didn't do much with it. And then we did a load of research and kind of worked out that for our sins, an app was the right thing to do. I mean, the consumer apps is just not for the faint-hearted. And
no, they're hard graft.
People always say, like, would you do it now? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I always says no if they didn't known. But we didn't know that space, but we knew that's what our user needed. They manage WhatsApp on their phone, their bank on their phone, and Instagram on their phone. And we wanted to bring together content, tools, and community in one space, where it was a safe space to manage your money. So I can set my budgets and I've got my plan, manage your goals, but also learn. So content, but that wasn't like, there's a big thing about women and courses, and I mean lengthy courses. Yeah. And it was like, why does a woman have to do a course but a man doesn't? And actually the women we're targeting are fucking busy. So they've not got time to sit and learn. And actually I felt that the financial education industry is so focused on just stuff you don't need to know. Yeah. So we've got this view that you just need to learn just enough. So like,
it's whatever's going to have the biggest impact, surely.
Yeah, and just help you. And later, if you want to be a money geek and lean into it, wonderful. But when you've got to get someone to realize they need to manage the money in a particular way, but they're time poor. What nugget can you give them on a daily basis or on a one-off blog or a pod or something that makes them take that away? And it's like for fitness, if I want to get better for fitness, I don't qualify as a PT. I just start with the basics. I don't need to know about macros in my first 4 weeks. I probably just need to walk a bit more and eat a little bit less. And that sounds common sense, but actually, if you're not in the right frame of mind or it's not positioned in a particular
Sometimes
way,
you do. It's the classic thing. Sometimes you might well know that, but you just need someone to tell you.
And then the big thing about what we've seen success in, Eddie, is helping someone build their own financial plan, but in a way that doesn't feel like labor intensive. So people are overwhelmed with what to do in what order. We work in the pre-advice stage, which is financial guidance. It's not a regulated space, and so you do have to be very careful. And again, I think the legal background helps there. But there is this worry that no one tells you what to do in what order. But it's kind of accepted in global personal finance.
Yeah.
There's a really healthy order of make sure you've got emergency savings. Consumer debt isn't that helpful. And if you spend less than you make, you can invest the difference. And that's just that's it. There's nothing protectable. There's no IP here. I mean, obviously, we are getting better and better at making suggestions that are bespoke to someone's salary level, or you say that you're interested in paying off your debt. Here's some really good content that will help you build a plan to pay that off. But yeah, there was just this massive gap there that app was the right thing to do and consumer was the right thing to do. Even if it's a mountain, it's just been the most rewarding thing we've ever done. And the app went live, bootstrapped completely October 21.
And how has it gone since? Like, how many is in the community? How many downloads has it had?
Oh, it's just been amazing. I mean, I think we've had over 250,000 downloads now. We've got about 10, 11,000 paying users that pay us.
Amazing.
But from 120 countries. So the weird thing was we thought we were building a UK personal finance brand.
Because you'd think it might be, almost have to be country specific, but I guess not.
Because
the values are the same, right?
Well, what we realised was we're not a financial education platform.
Yep.
We might give some financial education, but we're about money management,
yep.
which is the same everywhere. Everywhere, we need to have emergency savings. Everywhere, consumer debt is not great because it kind of steals from your income and you play the 0% game and one thing happens. And we are all about focusing on financial wellness over wealth, which ironically, wealth comes. But if you're focusing on not a number, but feeling better, with our app, you can feel better in 10 minutes. Just read the first article. Just go in the community. Like, you'll feel better. And so if you feel better, you're more likely to make better decisions. Mental health is massively linked into it. But it was TikTok that really sent us all these global users, like our second biggest market. 20% of our paying users are US.
Wow.
And we've never put $1 on anything.
That's insane.
Which, I mean, the Americans are quite proud as well. So they don't, if that looks English, they're like, I don't really want it. But basically the trick we used was we're massive on customer interviews. We do about 2-3 a week. We record them. We don't ask about what feature you like. We're saying, how are you? Like, what's going on in your life? When you were looking for this, why were you looking for it? What wasn't working for you? Because you can kind of get under the skin of the motivation of someone, whether we're a pill or whether we're a vitamin, and we're definitely a pill for most people. Most people, it's something's going on in their life.
Yep.
And basically we repurposed a lot of the quotes into our TikToks. So not our summary of what you said, but what you actually said. And weirdly, it attracts more of people like you, but globally. So TikTok especially, but now YouTube and now the podcast is sending us global users. And we're doing a few features that are going to make it more internationalized. But that's what's happening. That we're seeing people paying down debt, increase their assets, celebrate when they've paid a debt off or something, and it's just like a bit of a flywheel because
there must be some insane wins, right? From that. Like, some of the people in the community must have had some amazing results.
Oh my God.
Like genuinely life-changing.
So there's the obvious ones, like I've been in debt since I'm 18 and I'm 35 and now I'm debt-free. And those are moments where it's like, imagine a credit card payment or a finance payment just being like one of your bills. Just like
a mortgage.
Tax, mortgage, rent, just like normal, to suddenly not have that. There's been people who and then have bought houses as solo buyers in this economy, which is just amazing. But the better ones are more like life ones. Like, someone came up to me, an FD came up to me at an event recently, and she said, oh my God, I just want to introduce myself. Like, I'm a user. You saved my marriage. And she said, I manage a £200 million budget at work, but when I'm stressed, I spend. And my husband said to me, I will need to leave. Like, we are not going to carry on because this isn't sustainable. Like, we're messing around with money. We're not in a great place. And I feel like I can't help you. And da, da, da. And she recognized that it was completely on her. You know, she said he's a wonderful husband. We're a great family. I am the problem. Went on a money journey, which was like, again, breaking it down and using our product. And they're now in a great place. Luckily, she's got a good income to kind of fix things and control things. Saved a relationship. And the biggest wins recently have been what we call financial babies. So couples have been able to fund IVF for children that really they thought they couldn't do financially. So to be able to show someone how to like build up a baby fund, even if it's not in the immediate future. You know, we've got same-sex couples where IVF is just the only way. And so if they want to be parents.
And it's phenomenally expensive, right?
Phenomenally expensive, might not work the first time. It's a massive journey. Then if you are successful, you've got maternity leave, and then you've got, you know, childcare fees. Such a big thing in our society. It really upsets me sometimes when on our podcast, when people email into the vault and say, we're deciding whether or not to have children. We really want them.
Based on money.
Based on money. But maths is maths. So you can't be like, oh, just have them. You'll be fine. Like, you know, people are managing a budget. It's really hard. But we get the pictures of the babies going, this baby would not have happened. We couldn't have done it. And that's where you go, this is changing lives. And, you know, you can sit and talk about KPIs and about active users and about, you know, your lifetime value. And that's like a lot of our everyday. But one of our work values, company values, is remember why we do this. Because sometimes it is hard. And sometimes you're trying to navigate startup life. And then you come off a call with a customer interview and you go,
That's exactly why we're doing it.
That's why we do it. We need to find more of them, because if we've helped them, and I've got this really weird KPI about number of people helped, and it's hard we've not nailed it yet, because I'm like, how do we track number of people helped? But on a philosophical level, if I help you and your partner, and you both feel well, and you radiate that to your children are learning how to manage money in a very calm way, no matter what the macro is. The micro is you can control it. But then your friends and family, because what happens is when you talk about money positively, when you don't feel worried about money, when you actually say no to something, you're going, do you know what? I can afford it, but I would rather do that. We're going to go on holiday instead. So we're going to say no. I'm going to watch what I'm spending this month because we've got this bigger goal. People ask you how you did it.
Yeah.
And then they want to learn. And it's just like a health journey. People radiate towards people with good health. They radiate towards people with good financial health as well. And that's going to be one of the biggest legacies we can do.
That's the word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Legacy. Like, amazing.
Just the impact that you can have on someone. Like, my goal is to have everyone in the UK managing their money on using Financielle. You should use Financielle. And I say UK because it's a really weird thing with milestones. As a startup, if we tried to boil the ocean and conquer the world, like the US is there for us, Australia is there for us, Canada's there for us, and not to mention the European countries that just from a language issue, we've just not touched yet. Yep. But we do have to kind of just look at the next milestone, because you just try and be a busy fool. And
of course you do.
And you know, I'm learning that more and more, that the less things you focus on, the more impactful you can be. But I want you all to say, you need Financielle. Financielle will just help you manage your money better. And in a year's time, you're going to look up and your net worth is going to be, you know, plus 20K, plus 50K, plus it just will, because you've just got a bit of a plan. Just like in business, when you've got a plan, your money needs a plan as well. You need to tell every penny where to go, and everyone could do a little bit more with their money, I think.
And that journey could start today, couldn't it?
Immediately, because there's just so much that is overwhelming about building that first plan. But once you build the first one, we as a human nature like to optimize. Oh, what can I tweak? What can I improve? Oh, we had a work experience student with us last week, and she was amazing. I did a budget session with her on Friday, showing her as a 15-year-old what it's like for mum and dad. And it was fascinating. I mean, she didn't really understand, clever girl, doesn't understand what a mortgage is, not taught about it in school. I was showing her, you know, the interest rates and what you actually pay back, and she was blown away. How you can use sinking funds to save up in advance. So do you know how Christmas is the same time every year? Well, if in our budget we put a little bit aside and called that Christmas, then Christmas is saved for. It's not savings, it's Christmas. And then I showed her how to bust a budget. Well, we did. We were putting in like hair and nails and clothes and food and McDonald's and Nando's, and then we bust it. And I was like, there's not enough money. Like, we have to go back. And And then I showed her a compound interest calculator and showed, actually, with age on your side, like investing a little and often. It's just an amazing thing. You've no money to invest. Go back to the budget and where can you create some room? And so all of us can do that. All of us can do that. It did make me think, oh my God, schools, like they're learning such weird and wonderful things, but they're not learning something that, I mean, like I am Mrs. Auntie buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
My goal is to bring down Klarna. They're going to IPO this year and a load of white men are going to get wealthy off women dividing payments into 6. And it's the first, like a gateway drug to finance buy now, pay later. A lot of, I think it was like 50%
Too
of users.
easy, isn't it?
Too easy. They don't realize it's credit because it's not percent initially and all the other reasons. They don't realize that you spend 65% more with buy now, pay later. The average basket value goes up. And that's what the buy now, pay later brands will tell to the retailers and say, use us and your sales will go up, but give us 7% off the back of it. The user just goes, oh, I can order more and I might send some back and I could try more options. And so things like that, if we can like help people with those small, like what we call daily light bulb moments, just something, we're building trust, you're on our side, and then they're more motivated to do a budget, which is motivating them to put their money to something. Our thing is, it's a P&L, put your money to something that grows every month, every payday. As long, it could be paying down debt, it could be buying a home, it could be savings, it could be investing. It's not Christmas or holiday or that's in your expenses. Then you've just taught someone something that if you can teach them that at 17, like it's like the smoking thing. If you can get in early and they never do it, like they're just going to be in such a better place. But schools are just not teaching it.
But what an opportunity for people to get hold of it and get a grip of it now.
This is true. You're like, the businessman in you is like, well, this is a great opportunity because if they're not doing it, there's
Nobody's
a gap in the market.
Like,
universities
people,
as well. Another one, universities is the first time that a young person gets a wad of cash in the form of a student loan, which is paid quarterly, but their bills are monthly. Yeah. How many of us blew that loan the first week? Lots of us did that.
But if we can get in there at that incisive moment about like the anti-smoking, then the impact and the years of financial impact that could have just tells its own story.
100%.
That's Laura Pomfret, founder of Financielle, from city lawyer to tech entrepreneur right here in Manchester. What began as something she started out on a whim whilst on maternity leave soon unearthed a bigger opportunity to create a proper impact and leave a genuine legacy. With Financielle now supporting over 70,000 people to help regain control of their finances. Thanks so much for listening to the show this week, and please make sure to click the follow button on your podcast app so you never miss a new episode of the show. Don't forget to check out Ministry of Work, where you can sign up for your free trial day. And just a reminder that this episode was produced, recorded and edited right here at Ministry of Work, with a special thanks to our studio manager, Dan Brown, and of course to you for listening. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and this has been Greater Manchester's Greatest Minds.